everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Chandana Banerjee, and today I wanted to talk about a reader question. One of my blog readers just sent in a question, and the question was that Chandana, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm trying to get back to my work from home career as a writer. But how do I work? Because every time I sit down to write, my daughter comes and shuts down the laptop. Now, so the main question is if you have small children at home, how do you work from home, right? Now, when you're working from home, you're not going to an office and you don't have your own cubicle to work in. And when your child is at home, you can't even shut the door and say, hey, I'm working. Just meet me at 6 o'clock, right? So, how do you work? This is a question that I've had many times and I've struggled with over the years. I started working when my son was about 3 months old, and I thought that I could really wing it while he was napping. But guess what? My son didn't nap much. He was a light sleeper, and he always wanted to be held whenever he would close his eyes for a few minutes. So there went my dreams for working. So instead, what I started doing was I started blogging. I would either get up a little early, or if I couldn't sleep, I would sit at my laptop and just start writing my blog posts. And what I also did was I studied while he was a baby. I would put him on my chest, or I would just hold him in with one hand, and I would have a book on my other hand, and I would study. And that's how I did my yoga teacher certification. And I did a couple of other courses in writing, design, art, all while he would be napping with me and I would be studying. As he grew older, when he was about a toddler, I decided to get back to freelance writing because not because I had a lot of time, but because I needed to work for a couple of hours to save my own sanity and to feel that I was a little, I also had this other role, apart from being a mom. And it was difficult. As a freelance writer, writing for publications across India and the world, I had a lot of deadlines, and you had to meet your deadlines. I couldn't go back to an editor and say that, hey, my child was just crying for me, so I'm going to send you the article tomorrow or next week. So, how I would do it is I would either work on weekends when my husband was at home to look after my son. And during that time, I used to have a babysitter who would pitch in for a couple of hours. So let's say every day she would be there from 10 to 12, and I would take that time and sit in my room and pen those articles and send them out. And that was also the time when I would send in my pitches. And when my son was napping and he was in my lap, I would be looking at my computer and looking for new markets to send new pitches to. That's how I worked those first few years when my son was a toddler. Now, the good news is it does get easier as the children start growing up. But a child is a child, and when you're working at home and your child is at home with you, they are bound to come and want to ask you questions or want to talk to you, or if they've made something, they want to come and show it to you. And yes, they might also want your attention sometimes when you're at the computer, and they might even want to compete with your laptop or when you're working. At least that sometimes happens with my son. So even now, he's 6.5 years old, and when I get on a business call, or if I'm talking to a prospective client, or I'm talking about some work with somebody, the moment I get on a call, my son comes running and he wants to show me something he's made, or he decides to sing a song at the top of his voice, standing right next to me. So there's always something. I've kind of got used to talking on the phone with my son in the background, and that's just the way it is. So, but how do you work? Do you just give up, or do you wait for them to go to school, or do you wait for them to go to college before you start working? Now, my son is homeschooled. We are long term homeschoolers, and I've been homeschooling him for the past 2 years. So, he's with me the whole day. He's in class 2 now, and I have a little work partner with me all through the day. And that's how I look at it. I have chosen to homeschool him, and he's with me, and I have to work around it. I can't always be shutting myself up in a room to work. So these are some of the things that I've been doing to make time for work while looking after and bringing up and caring for a relatively small child at home. Now, your situation might just be different. You either have a child who's still not going to school, and you're wondering how you can grab a couple of hours of work while your child is at home. Or maybe because the schools are closed, so you are homeschooling too, and you're trying to work. Whatever your situation might be, I hope that some of my tips help you in managing your attention, your time, and your space while you try to get some work done. I've written down these tips, so I will be glancing at them once in a while. Now, the first tip would be find pockets of time to work in. Now, when I say pockets of time, I would say either you get up at a time when you can find some peace. For me, I wake up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. So from 5 to 7 or 7:30, I get 2 to 2.5 hours of uninterrupted work. For you, you might be a night owl. And if you want to start working from 9 o'clock at night to, let's say, 12 o'clock, choose whatever time works for you, works for your rhythm. Another good time to find some time find some time to work is when your child is maybe napping in the afternoon. That is, if they nap, and if they don't nap, but they use the time to sit and play on their own, then that's also a good time to grab an hour or maybe even 30 minutes of time to get some work done. So make sure that you are able to find these pockets of time to work in. Okay. The second tip would be have a rhythm instead of a tight work schedule or a tight daily schedule. Before I had my son, I was a very scheduled kind of person. I would have my whole day written in time caps. So example, 8 to 8:30, I'm going to have my breakfast. 8:30 to 10:30, first sprint of work. 10:30 to 11, I take my coffee break. From 11 to 2, I'm going to work. So I had my whole day like that mapped out. And it kind of worked for me. Though I would say that maybe it wasn't necessary to have it so tight, but it kind of worked for me till then. After my son was born, it was very difficult for me to have a tight schedule. Again, maybe for you, a tight schedule still works, even if your kids are at home or your kids are small. For me, it just didn't. What I found instead was if when I broke my day up into chunks of time and created a rhythm which was kind of flexible but still gave me a structure that has worked wonders for me. So, what I do is my rhythm right now would be something like this. Early in the morning, I get up with an alarm and I make myself a cup of coffee and I sit down to work. I write, morning times are my writing times. Either I'm writing a book or I'm working on my first novel or I'm writing a blog post or an article. So these are the times that I'm focused on my writing work. No social media at that time, no answering emails. After that, we get up. My son also wakes up. We have a breakfast together. We freshen up, dress up for the day, and we sit down to homeschool. After a couple of hours of homeschool, after he's done for a little while, we take a break before lunch. That is the time I catch up on some of my other work. After lunch, I rest for a bit. My son plays on his own, and that's again when I get back to work. In the evening, we either spend together as a family or I exercise and I then again grab an hour of work before dinner. I don't work at night because I just can't see the screen before sleeping. And I don't sleep well if I see the screen at night. So for me, morning hours and daylight hours work best. That's how my rhythm is. We have time for our homeschool, for spending time as a family, for my housework, for cooking, for work, writing, and for special times together. This kind of works. Now, I'm not saying that every day I'm able to follow this rhythm. No. There are days when maybe I just don't feel like getting to work because of something else. Or because I'm a military spouse, I have a ladies kind of welfare commitment or a social commitment, and I need to drop everything and go for that. So things change, and I try to move with the change. It's not always easy. There are times when I get annoyed because of sudden changes, but that's the way it is. Either I sit and complain or I get my work done. So I choose to go with the rhythm rather than go with a fixed structure and then feel disappointed that, hey, I was supposed to do so and so task between so and so time and I have not been able to do it. So a loose rhythm and chunking my time up helps me be a little more productive. My third tip would be take help from someone sometimes. That could be your spouse. Now, let's say on weekends your husband is at home. Maybe you can have a talk before this and decide that, hey, on Saturday and Sunday, maybe from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, you will be with our child or with our children while I grabbed some time to finish up those assignments. Maybe that's the only time you have to work on weekends. So you decide that you're going to have a 2 day working week and you make it work like that. Or you decide that on weekdays you're going to get up 1 hour earlier, or maybe you're going to sleep 1 hour later and just do a couple of hours of work over the week, and then huddle down and work for maybe 3 4 hours uh, on Saturdays and Sundays when your husband is there to be with your children. Or maybe you are fortunate enough to have a good babysitter and you can hire that babysitter to babysit either 5 days a week or 4 days a week or even 2 or 3 days a week. Whatever feels good for you and whatever is more practical for you. So take help. Sometimes at this phase, it's very difficult to do it all. Trying to work, trying to manage your home, trying to dish up nutritious meals, trying to look after your child, trying to be, a really good mom and doing a lot of fun activities with your child, and also trying to take the time out for your own health. All of it, it is difficult to fit into 24 hours when your children are small or when they're small and still at home. So take help. Okay. My next tip would be keep talking to your kids about what you do and why this work that you're doing is important for you. Believe me, however small a child is, they understand. I have been talking to my son about my work since he was probably a toddler. And initially, he would miss me. So, whenever I would have the babysitter looking after him and I would be writing out my articles, my son would not be very happy about it. But I've seen over the months, over the years, as I have discussed about my work with him, he has kind of understood. Now, in fact, he's at home 24/7, and we really don't have any boundaries. In the sense that where I am in my studio or where my work desk is, that's also the place where he's often playing or making things in. And he kind of understands when I say that, see, this is my time to work. Will you just give me 1 hour to work, and then I will be right there with you to do whatever activity you want me to? And he understands. Yes, he's still taking time to understand that he need not be making a lot of sound when I'm on the phone, and he need not have a conversation with me right when I am having a conversation with a client on the phone. But we're getting there, and children understand. They understand that mama needs to work, and this is why this makes her happy, and they are willing to adjust too. So just keep that dialogue open. Keep having that conversation. A child may not understand instantly, but keep talking just like you would talk to another person. Just don't think that because they're small they'll not understand. They will. At a certain level, they're understanding. Maybe they're not able to communicate it back to you, but they will understand and they will adjust with you while you also give time to your dreams. Set up a workstation for you or for your child near where your workplace. Now, this place that I'm filming this video in, I've got a little table right behind me where my son often sits and does his drawing and painting and craft. My table is right here where I write, and the desk next to it is where I do my painting orders. And we've spent enough of times with me working on my project and him working on his project. So let's say I'm working and he comes to me and says that I want to talk to you, or like, can we just sit and do this? I say, why don't you give me some time? Let me finish this work, and you can get your project and sit right here with me in my work studio, and we can be like co-workers. And that makes my son very happy. I'm sure most children would like to be near their parents. And if you are a homeschooling parent or you are a parent of a small child who is working from home, do try this trick. Do set up a little play area or a work area for your child and get them to do their quiet time or their projects that they do on their own while you are grabbing some time for your work. My next tip and my sixth tip would be set certain boundaries. Yes, while you set up a work from home area, it is also important to have certain boundaries in the sense that you tell your child that for the next 15 minutes or maybe for the next half an hour, I want to sit and finish this work. Can you please give me that time while you do something else, either in this room or in your playroom? If your child is very small, I would say that they need to have adult supervision with them. So either it's a babysitter, a reliable babysitter, or your spouse, or you in that room with them while you grab the time for work. And if a child is grown up enough, like my son is around 6.5 years old, so he can be on his own in his own room playing. So I tell him that just give me some time, let me finish this, and I'll be with you. And that helps a lot of times. It may not work every time, and that's fine, but it does help. And children slowly realize that you are working and you're serious about what you're doing, and you need to do it to feel happy or to, for whatever reason. So tell them that this right now I'm going to be sitting at my desk. If you have any questions, can you please ask those after I finish my work? Or if this project needs to be done, can we get back to the project after I finish my article or deadline or assignment, whatever it is? And it helps. Children understand they are ready to cooperate. It don't expect them to cooperate every time, but you kind of will get there. Tune yourself to working in short slots of time, in short sprints. Gone are the days when I can imagine working for 3, 4, 5 hours at a stretch. Now, if I get 30 minutes to 1 hour at a stretch without being asked a question or without being asked to look at something, I feel that's bliss. If you have smaller children, younger children, then the time window is even shorter for you, right? So just get ready. Even if you have 15 minutes, earlier I would think like this: oh, I just have 15 minutes. I can't do a thing in 15 minutes. I'd rather not work. Let me just sit and read. But you will be surprised that when you add up the 15 minutes through the day, through the week, you can actually get a lot done. So grab those 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes, take that time out to maybe write a pitch, or maybe use those 10 minutes to research a new market. You have 30 minutes, just write down the structure of the article that you want to write. Or if you are painting, then just draw a rough diagram of what you want to translate onto the canvas. Or apply this thing to whatever field you are in. Use little chunks and little bits and pieces of time to get your work done. Stop expecting to have a long stretch of time for your work. You'll probably get it either when your children are back in school, or when, if you're a homeschooling parent, then maybe when they're in high school or when they leave for college. So use the little bits and pieces of time, put it together to make something big. Factor in the fact that your child will be around you. Don't expect pin drop silence. Don't expect undisturbed stretches of time. This took me a lot of time. I would always hanker for long, uninterrupted stretches of time to work in. But I realized when I started homeschooling that my son is not going to go back to school in the near future, and he will be with me. And when I'm not teaching him, I can't expect him to be totally be on his own. He will want to pop in. Even when I'm recording videos, he's often peeping in through the door or wants to come and check in on me to see what I'm doing. So it is a part of my work life now, and I have accepted it, I have embraced it. That doesn't mean that I'm always very happy about it. I do crave for quiet time, but it's something that I have embraced. My next tip would be, at the same time, when you are telling your child at home that, here, hey, give me some time to work, I will be with you right after this, or I need this time to focus on my project, why don't you focus on yours? When you do that, also make sure that you are scheduling in special times with your child when you're working on a special project together or an activity that you both enjoy. So for us, this is something like this. I work in the morning, but then post breakfast we get sit down together to homeschool. Though my son is not always a very happy student, in the sense he would rather play than sit and read or look at a lesson, that is also our special time. That is a time when we sit next to each other, we read books, and we talk about stories, and we sometimes look at fun things on YouTube channel to help him in his lessons. And yes, there is some writing work that he doesn't like to do, but then that is our time. After we are done with our homeschooling, I get back to my writing or my painting or my marketing. And again, sometimes in the late afternoons, we sit together and we'll either paint or write. Or my husband is back from work and he will sit and do something with him. So my son feels that he has parental attention through the day and that we are right there for him. This is a very good way to build not only a bond with your child, to also uh, invest in time with your child through your day. So that at the end of the day, often when I look back, I feel, okay, have I given more time to my work? Or even when I was sitting with him, was I thinking of that email? Or was I thinking of that writer, or that article? Or was I thinking of that painting that needed to be shipped? And I was not able to be with my son totally. But if I have scheduled in special times through the day, I feel that connection and I feel that it's okay. You know, there is a kind of balance. There can never be a total balance, but there has been some balance, and it that brings me joy and comfort at the end of the day. These were my tips, the tips that I use to work from home while my son is at home and he's being homeschooled. I hope that you can use at least a few of these tips to create your work from home day. And believe me, it takes patience, it takes persistence, and it takes time for you and your child to work together towards a path where you can work alongside each other. When you will be working on your laptop and your child will not be shutting it down or demanding your attention all the time. And at the same time, you get to work and also devote a lot of quality time and maybe a certain quantity of time to your child. So it's a trial and error. It's two steps in the front and one step back, and it's a journey. So don't beat yourself about it, and don't be too harsh on yourself or on your child, and you will get there. I hope that you found my tips useful. If you found it useful, may I request you to share this video with a friend and subscribe to this channel. There is a like button below. Do like it if you liked it. And if you have any question about working from home as a mom, starting a micro business around your passions, or homeschooling in India, or even how you can use home economics or home management as a tool to enhance your work from home life, then do drop me a question in the comment section below. I will see you soon in my next video. Till then, bye.